Hey, it's Aaron. I'm here in Austin, and it's about to be New Year's Eve 2017. I've been reflecting on some of my travels lately, and especially my first story. It happened on New Year's Eve 2001, and I just wanted to share it with you. All right, so I've traveled a lot now, over 50 countries, but most people don't know how it all started. So I'm gonna tell you a story about when I was in high school and taking my first trip. It kind of changed everything. All right, so when I was 17, I was living in a small town called Van, Texas, population of less than 2,000 people. But I didn't really fit in, so I was getting in trouble for dumb stuff all the time. For example, trying to bring my own chair to lunch, my hair being too long, wearing pants that I'd cut into shorts. So I was getting in trouble all the time for stuff like that. And in fact, I got kicked out of tennis for something I didn't even do. So I'd kind of had it with this small town, and I decided I'm gonna take my first trip. Growing up in Van, we only had one TV channel, and I hadn't traveled much, so I didn't really know where to go on this trip. It was 2001, September 11th had just happened, and we were about to have 10 days off for winter break, for Christmas break. And so I decided, man, I know where to go. Like, the ball's gonna drop in New York City, plus all this September 11th stuff just happened. I wanna go check it out. And really, I didn't know anywhere else to go, because like I said, I only had one TV channel. That was what I knew of the world, was the ball dropping in New York City. So anyway, I wanted to go where the action was, but the problem was I had no money at all, and the car that I had was actually given to me because it had 278,000 miles on it and bald tires. And I had like 2 days to plan this trip. So I tried to get all my friends to go, but nobody wanted to go. We didn't have any money. We had a car that wasn't gonna make it. So anyway, I just said, like, I'm going for sure, with or without you guys. Like I said, I didn't have any money, but at the time, Walmart had a pretty lenient return policy, and you could return almost anything for full cash back, right? So I happened to have a chainsaw that I was using for a business that winter, cutting firewood, and I was kind of over cutting firewood. So I decided to take my chainsaw back to Walmart and get the money back. So I took the chainsaw back, and they gave me $138. I didn't really know how to plan much, but I figured $138, that can get me there. I just wouldn't be able to spend it on food. Like, it was just gonna be all towards gas. That was the plan. So I bought a gallon of water, a thing of peanut butter, and some bread, and I said, all right, I'm just gonna eat peanut butter and drink water, that's it, and go to New York City. So I packed up my car, and I really didn't pack much. I didn't know how cold it was gonna be, for example, so I didn't have much warm clothes or anything. But I didn't tell my parents I was leaving. I just snuck out of town, and this is before cell phones, before the internet, or at least before most people had the internet. So anyway, I left, and I didn't want to bother with directions. So basically, I lived close to the Interstate 20 in Texas, and I just knew you could drive to the end of it and turn left in South Carolina, and that would take you to New York City. So rather than try to go through like Nashville and Memphis and Arkansas and have to worry about getting lost, I just drove straight, turned left, and then was gonna go to New York City that way. All right, so that meant the first day, I drove about 12 hours, and I got near Atlanta, Georgia. I was pretty tired of driving, and I decided, hey, I'll try to find somewhere to stay in Atlanta. I decided to go to the mall. I thought, hey, I've been to the malls before. I bet I can make some friends there, and they'll probably let me like crash at their house when they hear my story, like I'm gonna go to New York City. Anyway, I found like the nearest mall, and then I went there and just sat on a park bench for about an hour and didn't talk to anybody, and then I left when it closed. All right, so then I was like, oh, I know, I could probably sleep at Walmart. Like, I know Walmart's, right? They're open 24 hours a day. So I went to Walmart, and I tried to hide, basically, inside the store, like underneath the clothes rack, and that worked out for a while, but I eventually got caught. So then I walked around Walmart looking for another hiding spot, and they had a McDonald's in the back of the store, and it was closed off, so like the lights were off and stuff, so I slept there for a bit, but it just wasn't that comfortable. So eventually I just went out to my car, and I slept in my car. But like around 4 in the morning, it started being a blizzard, and snowing everywhere, it was freezing. I didn't know you could leave your car on most of the night with the heater on. It doesn't take very much gas, because I was trying to save my gas, so I pretty much never turned the car on. Anyway, I froze. There was some people cleaning the parking lots, doing donuts around me in their like big vacuum truck. It was a pretty miserable night, actually. So in the morning when I woke up, I looked at my map, and I highlighted the road I'd already done, So I looked at it, and I was like a third of the way there using the route I planned. And I had a miserable night of sleep, and I've already eaten peanut butter 3 meals already, just drank water. And so leaving Walmart, I drove to a little truck stop, and filled up my car with gas. And then I looked at the map and I was like, man, I just want to go home. But I was like, man, either way, I got to drive 12 hours. Like at the end of the day today, I could be in Washington, D.C., or I could be in Van again. You know, and no matter what, I got to drive all day, so screw it, man. Might as well just keep going. All right, so I went inside the truck stop, and then I saw they had the showers, right? Truck stop showers. So I just let myself in and took a shower. But I didn't even pack soap, shampoo, anything, so this was just a straight water shower. But still kind of woke me up and felt nice. So anyway, I left, went back and sat out in my car, was kind of eating more peanut butter for breakfast, you know, meal number 4 of peanut butter. And then the gas station attendant like came out and chased me down. They're like, hey, did you take a shower? I was like, yeah, I took a shower. They're like, hey, that's $8. And I was like, no, I'm not paying you $8 for your shower. Door's open. It doesn't say $8, you know? And anyway, long story short, they made me pay $8. And when I had to pay them, I had to pay them at the register, and they were selling like fried chicken at the register, you know, like in a little rotating hot box or whatever. So anyway, when I had to pay the $8 and I was already on meal 4 of peanut butter and water, it like really got to me because $8 is a lot of $138 budget. So I was pretty frustrated, but I paid the $8 and then I kept driving. So I drove all day again, and I got to Washington, D.C., and I decided to stop and check it out a little bit. As I was exiting the highway, I saw a Fairfield Inn, which in high school we always went like to Tyler, Texas, about 25 minutes away, and we would sneak into the hotels and go to their hot tubs. So I saw this Fairfield Inn and I thought, oh man, I know the layout of that place. I could sneak in, go to the hot tub, hang out at the pool. That'll kind of be like a shower. Plus, I'll probably make some friends and they'll let me sleep on their floor, right? Like that's the easiest. You don't have to talk someone in the mall into like going back to their house. You're already at their house if you're at the Fairfield Inn. So, okay, so I went to the pool at the Fairfield, tried to make some friends, you know, and crash at their place, but I made some friends, but I never asked them to crash at their place. Instead, I thought, hey, this is a 3-story building, and people always use the elevators. So I'm just gonna sleep in the stairwell, because no one uses the stairs at the hotel. And you can go underneath the stairwell on the bottom floor, right? It's like a closet type space. So anyway, I went out to my car, got my blankets, and my pillow and stuff, and snuck into the stairwell underneath the stairs at the hotel. And I slept there for like an hour, but what I didn't realize is like, of course, there's security cameras everywhere. So the security lady came down and she told me like, hey, what's the deal? Why are you sleeping in here? And I pretended I had a room on the 3rd floor and I got in a fight with my friends, so I was just gonna sleep down there. But of course the pillows and the blankets, nothing matches, right? So she's like, all right, well, how about you come to the lobby and like cool down a bit and then you can go back to your room with your friends, you know? And I was like, all right, cool. And man, it was really cold in Washington, D.C. So I didn't want to sleep in my car again. So I stayed in the lobby like a few hours, and then eventually she came and put her arm around me. She was like, son, you're homeless, aren't you? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, I hate to do it, but you gotta go. So she kicked me out. And by the way, you know, I just turned 18, but I probably looked 14, you know, I looked pretty young. So she kicked me out. I didn't know where to go. I just drove around for a second. Then I saw Waffle House, and I was like, oh, those places, I know they're open 24 hours. So I'll just go to Waffle House for a bit. So anyway, I went to Waffle House, but I figured, hey, you gotta buy something to sleep there, you know. So I ordered 1 egg. It was 98 cents, scrambled. Okay, so I ate the egg, and then I stayed there for a while, and I slept kind of sitting up, and they were fine with that. And then I tried to lay down in the booth, and they kicked me out. So anyway, this is the end of day 2 now, and I've eaten, you know, 6+ meals of peanut butter and only water, but now I had 1 egg, so that was nice. I went outside to the payphone, put in a few quarters, and called Mom for the first time. I was like, hey, you'll never believe it, I'm in Washington, D.C. And then I told her my plan, I'm going to New York and whatever. You can't stop me now, you know, most of the way. So anyway, I chatted with him for a bit till the quarters ran out, and then, but then I had to go, right? I got kicked out of the Waffle House. So I was driving around some more, and then I saw Burger King was closing, and the manager was locking the front door and like leaving. And in my car, my blankets, they happen to be electric blankets. I got them out of an abandoned house around Halloween. We were all sneaking into abandoned houses. So I thought to bring an extension cord, and then I had an electric blanket. So I drove around the parking lot at Burger King, and I saw an outside outlet below the drive-through window. So I plugged in my extension cord, drug it across the parking lot to where I was parked, and then put it through my window. And then I had an electric blanket set up. So I slept in my car that night, but since I didn't really sleep the night before, I slept in pretty long. So when I woke up about 10:30 in the morning, everybody was driving over my extension cord, going through the drive-through, and I was scared to get out. But it was nice that they let me sleep in. So whenever there was no car on my extension cord, I just yanked it through the window, and then rolled it up and drove away. So that was the second night, and I pretty much slept in my car. So then I was hungry again, and I looked at the peanut butter, and I was like, hey man, I know that Fairfield Inn. I mean, the lady, the security, yeah, she kicked me out last night, but it's got to be a new shift. It's 11 a.m. So I was like, I'm going to go have breakfast. And maybe it wasn't 11 because breakfast was still out. So, I go to the Fairfield Inn, and I sneak in, and I get the continental breakfast, and I got like 4 plates going. And at that time, 9/11 still dominated the news. So I was just sitting in there watching the news, eating bagels and, all this other food from the hotel. And everything was good until I saw the same lady who kicked me out the night before, like, peek her head around the corner. And it was weird because she didn't come all the way in. She just made eye contact with me, and then she went back to get like more security. So when she went down the hallway towards the front desk, I just grabbed all the food I could and then went out the side exit. And then she chased me and said, never come back. I said, don't worry. But I got some food. All right, so then I explored Washington, D.C. a bit. I went and saw the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument, the Capitol building, the White House, that sort of stuff. But when I went to the Pentagon, that's where things got a little crazy. So you remember the planes hit the Pentagon too, right? And so this was like my first time to see something like direct hit from 9/11. I started walking around the Pentagon, and it was crazy. I mean, there were the planes, wherever they take off from, they're still going over, Washington, D.C. So the Pentagon had like anti-aircraft missiles lined up, like ready to shoot down some planes coming at them. They had lots of guards with machine guns everywhere. But then it was also like a memorial ground. So there was a lot of new trees planted. There were notes left for the victims. There were flowers and candles and letters, all this sort of stuff. And I was walking around reading it, and it was pretty touching. But then there's kind of the sad part. The people that left letters and flowers and all that stuff, they also put change like all around the new trees that were planted. So when you plant a tree, you kind of build up a little base where you can put the water in there and water the tree. But anyway, it was filled with coins, like quarters and dimes and nickels. And I was running out of money and, not having any food and nowhere to sleep and stuff like that. So I was like, screw it, man, I'm going to get some change. And so I was actually walking around in a t-shirt freezing, but when I decided to get some change, I went back to my car and I had my high school leather jacket. I didn't really like it. It was just left in my car all the time. So anyway, I got my leather jacket on, and then I went to where all the change was, and then I just scooped the change into my jacket sleeve, and then my jacket sleeve was hanging down really far, and then I went back to my car and unloaded it, right? But so later in the day, I kept driving from Washington, D.C. to New York City, and what I didn't know about toll roads, right? So it's like all toll roads from Washington, D.C. to New York City, and it turned out that my change that I had gotten from the Pentagon pretty much paid all my tolls, and I wouldn't have made it otherwise. I drove all day again, and I got to the New Jersey Turnpike that night, and this was like December 29th, or maybe December 30th, but before New Year's Eve. And so I'm on the New Jersey Turnpike, it's late at night, it's dark, and a New York Jets game had just finished, and the traffic was really bad, and on the New Jersey Turnpike here, it's 8 lanes wide, going in each direction. So 8 lanes going north or whatever, and then 8 lanes going south. So I was driving my car, and I was in the fast lane, on the left side of the traffic going north. I could see the New York City skyline. It was all right there, and I didn't even really know where I was going to go. New York City is a pretty big place, and I didn't have a map or a cell phone or anything. So anyway, I can see the skyline. We're in traffic. I'm driving a standard, going a few inches at a time, and then all of a sudden my car just blows up and smoke comes everywhere. I'm like, oh man. So I pull over, but on the left side of the highway, because it would be too hard to get to the right. I would have to cross 7 lanes. So I pull over, and I didn't really know what to do, but when your car breaks down, you just pop the hood, that. So I got out and popped the hood. But the traffic was going so slow, the car's going the opposite way. They kept saying hey, you want to borrow my cell phone? And I was just the route I took, I was 36 hours away from home. It's short if you go the other way, I guess. But anyway, I was no, who am I going to call? I don't know anybody that's anywhere close, nah, I'll figure it out, thanks. So I popped the hood, and the smoke's going everywhere. And I was only out there for a minute or two, and then this van pulls over. and the van on the side it said Guardian Angels. And then a couple of guys got out and they're going to help me with my car. They told me right away the radiator was blown open and it was a huge hole in it, so there's nothing they could do. So they said like, hey man, where are you staying? We'll take you to your hotel. And I was like, actually I'm staying in my car. They're like, what do you mean you're staying in your car? I was like, yeah, you know, I told them a little bit about my trip and I was trying to go for the ball drop and all that stuff. And they were like, how much money do you have? I was down to like 20 bucks. They were like, all right, man, come with us. And so I was like, all right, jumped in with them. So they actually paid for my car to be towed to the next exit just to get it off the highway. And then they told me get whatever I needed. I knew I was going to run out of money, so I tried to get whatever I had that I thought was valuable. One of those things was a Nolan Ryan baseball. So I was like, if I run out of money, I'll sell my Nolan Ryan baseball. It was autographed by Nolan Ryan, a Texas Rangers pitcher. So I had a few things like that and some baseball cards I was going to sell if I had to. And then my car was just full of junk, I don't know. But I just grabbed a few things. They said like, get whatever you need. So anyway, whatever. I didn't grab everything and I left the Nolan Ryan baseball there. That was a mistake. So I thought we were just going to go and come back and I'll get all my stuff, you know. They just said, grab whatever you need like for tonight. Okay, so then I rode with them, right? And they're in a 15-passenger van. There's probably, you know, 8 or so guys in there. And the crazy part was they drove me to Times Square in Manhattan, and that's like where the ball's going to drop, and that's like where I wanted to be. And then they had a gym just around the corner, and what the Guardian Angels were, they're an organization. You can look them up online, but they started in like the 70s, and it was like a clean up New York City type project. And so literally in the beginning they were sweeping the streets and cleaning, but then they started to be like helping fight crime, and they're kind of like vigilante crime fighters, though they might get mad if you call them that. So they make citizens arrests in New York City, and they like patrol the subways. They have a lot of different offices all over the world, and then they help with like online cyberbullying type stuff too. But in New York City, that's where it started, and I was at like their headquarters in Times Square. All right, so I was in the Guardian Angels headquarters in Times Square, New York City, and I got there late at night. I took in my suitcase with a couple of other guys that were also getting there, riding in the van with me. And when I got there, they asked me if I wanted to be a Guardian Angel, and I kind of like took this oath. And I saw some memorials on the wall, like people who had died fighting crime, you know, with the Guardian Angels, and it was kind of scary. And then they trained me a bit, and so I got some pictures like with nunchucks and boxing gloves and swords. And the Guardian Angels, they're all really nice guys. They're all volunteers, you know, so they have normal jobs or normal lives, and then they volunteer to help keep the streets clean and crime-free. So when I was there, people would kind of stay up in the gym watching Kiss of the Dragon and other ninja movies, and everybody had code names. So I wasn't very creative. They assigned me a code name, Tex. So when they're using the walkie-talkies and running around the streets, everybody used code names. The guy who kind of adopted me, his name was Kato. That was his code name. And I was going to hang out with Kato and fight crime with him. So I stayed up. I was pretty excited. Man, I'm staying in Times Square. And the Guardian Angels, they wear these red berets and red jackets. That's how they stand out, like on the subway or in town or whatever. So I got my red beret and my red jacket. I was hanging out with Kato. We were eating food. I was sleeping inside. Life was good. I called my mom, and okay, I had to buy a prepaid like phone card. Remember those? You like paid 10 bucks and whatever. You could call long distance using it. So I called mom on the prepaid phone card, and I said, hey mom, guess what? I made it to New York City. Everything's good. I was like, the car did blow up, but don't worry, I'm staying with Guardian Angels. You know, I got a place to stay. We're eating food, and life's good. But you know, like my calling card was running out of time, or I was trying to save time or something, so I just kept it kind of short. So anyway, mom knew I was good, but the car was gone, you know, and whatever, I had to hang up, it's a calling card. So anyway, I go to sleep that night. I'm just sleeping on the floor in the gym, and then red alert comes at like 2 in the morning, right? And it's like, go, go, go. So I put on my jacket, my red beret, but I'm still wearing board shorts and you know, tennis shoes, and then we're running around New York City, and I don't really know what's going on. They just said code red, like, let's go. So we run around, and it's like 6 of us in the berets and red jackets and stuff, and we're like getting lost, taking wrong turns. But in the end, it was Sbarro Pizza, whatever you call that place. See, when companies have problems in New York City, especially the ones that have relationships with the Guardian Angels, instead of calling the police, they just call the Guardian Angels directly. By the way, when you're a Guardian Angel, like the whole city takes care of you. We got to go on the subways for free. We got to eat for free, like at Sbarro Pizza and a lot of other places. So being a Guardian Angel, I mean, I had a place to live. I had free meals. Life was good. You know, I had some friends and everything. So Sbarro Pizza was having problems with people setting up in front of their store and then playing 3-card Monte, which is like, hey, guess where this card is? And then they would get them to bet, and sometimes they'd let them win a little bit, and then they'd get them to bet a big amount, like $300. Then they just grab the money and run away and disappear, and then they'd come back like an hour later and do it again. And so anyway, these guys were doing that like all day at the Sbarro Pizza, and so they called the Guardian Angels to like just get rid of these guys pretty much. So when we finally do make it there, I'm just like at the back of this line, right, of the guys, of the Guardian Angels, and the head guy, he just goes up and he starts ripping up. They were setting up on boxes, like just cardboard boxes they were using as tables. So the first Guardian Angel started ripping up their boxes and throwing them away so they couldn't like set up easily. And he's like, hey, you gotta quit doing that and stuff. And then it turns out these guys are like Crips gangsters, and they had like knives and they pull them out and stuff, and they're like, hey, we're gonna slit your throat. And man, I just saw the memorial, like the people who died, you know, on the wall in the gym. I was like, man, I'm not having any part of this. So I like stayed back. But the other Guardian Angels, they would put their arms behind their back and they'd say like, go ahead, slit my throat. I bet you won't do it. And I'll be like, no, man, I'm here to watch the ball drop, you know? So I'm kind of like hiding back in the back, like kind of behind some clothes rack from the store next door. So I didn't do much, and we mostly just talked the guys into going away, right? Nobody got stabbed or anything, so that was good. So anyway, that's like the first time I go out. That's 2 in the morning in New York City, running around in shorts, fighting the Crips with knives and stuff. So then, I wake up in the morning and we do just a lot of other just patrols. There was a guy at the time, they were calling the Scorpion Rapist. He was raping girls in one of the worst neighborhoods in New York City. And they called him Scorpion Rapist because the only thing people said about him was he had a necklace that had a scorpion on it. So the police were looking for him, but nobody could find him. And the police were like kind of scared to go where this guy was supposed to be. So we went. So we're driving around that van, going through, man, I'll have to look up the neighborhood. Anyway, we're driving around, we're going through really bad parts of New York City and trying to find the Scorpion Rapist, going in buildings, just looking around, asking people. Then later we might be doing subway patrols. And there were all sorts of stories over the next few days of just fighting crime. I'll tell you some more in a minute. But then it gets to be New Year's Eve, right? And remember, it's 2001, right? The September 11th just happened and everyone's worried about New Year's Eve in Times Square. And that's why I went. I wanted to go see the ball drop. Like MTV was there on the strip or whatever, and in Times Square. And there's just a lot of stuff going on. So anyway, I'm kind of getting ready to go party in the streets, but all the other Guardian Angels, they're gonna work that night, obviously, right? It's like a big night. Anyway, there was some confusion and I got assigned to a steakhouse, and I was supposed to be like doing patrols there and not going to the party, right? Then I needed to quit being a Guardian Angel because I wanted to go to Times Square, right? And they had me like on patrol in the steakhouse, and the steakhouse didn't need any patrol. It was like, rich people in there. So anyway, I had like a kind of like a manager guy stopping by to check on me every once in a while. Hey, how's your patrol going? I was like, hey, it's good, man. People just eating steak, I was like, hey, man, I gotta go. I was like, I came to New York City to go watch the ball drop. And he's like, you don't want to be a Guardian Angel no more? I was like, well, I mean, I do, but not tonight. He's like, tonight's the most important night. And I was like, man, I gotta go. He's like, all right, give me your beret and your red jacket and stuff. So I gave it to him, and I was like, man, that sucks. But I had to go watch the ball drop. So anyway, New Year's Eve, I got there like 5 p.m. They're doing like bomb checks on everybody. I had like one bag of Wheat Thins, and they're like going through it and stuff. And they put you in these corrals, and you kind of just stand there, wait a long time. So anyway, I did the whole New Year's Eve thing. It was freezing. And I made a lot of good friends, saw some cool stuff. Rudy Giuliani walked by me to sign out as mayor. A lot of bands, famous people and stuff, and the ball drops. That was pretty fun. But like, most people go home at 1 a.m., after the ball drops or whatever. But I didn't have anywhere to go because I quit being a Guardian Angel, and I didn't think I could go back there. So I just stayed up in Times Square pretty much all night. And there's a McDonald's there. It's 2 stories. I just sat on this top story and hung out most of the night. I met some local kids. They asked about the scar on my face. I told them it was a 4-wheeler wreck, but they'd never heard of that. They lived in New York City their whole life. So it was kind of just interesting listening to stories from New York City kids and sharing mine, coming from different worlds. So in the morning, I was like, man, I gotta go back to the gym at the headquarters and just get my stuff back. So when I went back, they're like, hey man, how come you quit? We thought you were a Guardian Angel and you're gonna help us out and stuff. I was like, hey, the whole reason I came was to go watch the ball drop. And they're like kind of confused, and I was confused. And then after we talked for a while, it turned out the van who picked me up when I broke down, they were coming from the airport, and there was like a Guardian Angels chapter in Philadelphia, and all these other people were volunteering to help in New York City, and they had just gotten picked up by the airport, and then they picked me up on the way to the gym. So when I walked into the gym with the other 5 or 6 people, they all assumed I was from Philadelphia too, or that I was like coming on purpose to help for New Year's Eve. It turns out, after talking to Curtis Sewell later, it's pretty funny. He only pulled over because he thought I was a girl because I had long hair. So he said if he knew I was a guy, he wouldn't have pulled over to try to help me out. So anyway, once we figured out that that wasn't the case, they were like, oh man, all right, you can still be a guardian angel. So then I was a guardian angel again, which meant food and sleep and training at the gym and adventure. So I continued my patrols, and thing was, school was starting, and I didn't really have a way back. So I just kept living the New York City life and being a guardian angel. I missed the first day of school and the second day of school. The only way I had contact with my friends was AOL Instant Messenger at the largest internet cafe in the world. But I could only afford, like 30 minutes at a time, and I would try to chat with everybody on Instant Messenger, and then that was it. And I just called my mom like every few days. So actually, back in my hometown, somebody burned down the old grocery store, and they blamed me for it. But I was in New York City, so that's like my life in my hometown. Okay, so then I'm doing more patrols, and there's like unlimited stories of fighting crime with the Guardian Angels. Then it was a Sunday, and my mom went to church, and she was crying and stuff, and she told the pastor, like, hey, Aaron pretty much ran away, he's in New York City, and we don't know how to get him home. His car blew up, and we don't have much money. So the pastor told the whole church, hey, guys, problem here. Aaron's in New York City. We got to get him home, And and then mom was telling the pastor, oh yeah, he's got a place to stay. He's fine. He's with something Angels. And the pastor was like, Hell's Angels? She's like, yeah, that's it. And then the whole church thought I was with the Hell's Angels in New York City. So they raised money, passed around the plate, and then everybody pitched in for a plane ticket. And only one guy in the church had the internet. So they gave all the money to him to go home and book this plane ticket online. But the plane ticket was cheaper 3 days from now, than right away. So then I just kept fighting crime and chatting with my friends on Instant Messenger and calling my mom with the calling card. Yeah, eventually I got that flight back, to Dallas, and my mom and her friend came and picked me up. I had to donate plasma for a while to pay the church back. All right, so that's my story. That's New Year's Eve 2001, so 16 years ago. The main takeaway for me was, it was life-changing. I knew after that I could go anywhere in the world and survive, even if I didn't have money. So I traveled I've traveled 4 months a year at least since then, every year, and most of that was without money. I was going to the mall trying to meet friends so I can sleep at their house. I was trying to sleep under the stairs at the Fairfield Inn. I was ordering 1 egg at the Waffle House. But you know what? I went to Times Square when I was a senior in high school, and I had an incredible trip, and it was worth it. So 2018 is coming up. If you're looking to travel more or do something, I'd say go for it. Make it happen. You don't have to have a lot of money to have some good experiences and go traveling. Anyway, that's it. Happy New Year's, and make the most of 2018.